Hey, so this is a Storytime video. It's my first video for Storytime Tuesdays. I don't know if I'm going to find a better name for those, but I'm going to do Storytime videos on Tuesdays, like this one. So this is the first of those, and yeah, so this one is about the time that I was stopped by security at an airport. So, a few years ago, I believe I was a freshman in college, so it was probably 2000, would have been very early, like early January, like right after the new year of 2010, I think. So, I was on Christmas break, and my cousins and aunt and uncle came from Texas for Christmas and New Year's, and then they were going to leave the next day, which I think was like the first, or maybe the second, or whatever the case. They were going to leave like the next day, and me and my cousin were talking, and she's pretty much my age. Her name's Allison, and she's we're maybe 8 months apart or something, so we've been close pretty much since we were little. So we were talking and stuff, and figured out that we both had at that point still another week, a whole week before we had to go back to school. We were both in college, and it was my first year of college, and so Allison was like, "Oh, why don't you go ahead and come back with us?" And like, cause they had driven to Ohio, and they have like I feel like it's a van, maybe it wasn't a van, but they had driven to Ohio, and they were going to drive back. So she's like, why don't you go back with us and hang out with us for a week, and then you can fly home like a day or two before you have to go home, or before you have to be back at school. And I was like, oh my gosh, that would be so awesome. So we asked our parents, and they were fine with that and stuff. So I packed up. That was me scratching my jeans. So the next day, I packed my things up for a week, and I headed with them to Texas. I considered taking my keys that had like a lanyard on it, and like a little billfold, or not billfold, but like a little zippy. I don't have it with me, but it looks kind of like this, but it has a zipper on the side of it that has like, I don't know, cards and gift cards and my ID and all that stuff in it. So I considered taking my keys with that on it, but I was like, well, I'm not gonna need my keys when I'm in Texas, so I'll just leave that here, so I'm not gonna take it and lose it. And I wasn't like drinking age or anything, so I wouldn't need my ID for that. So I went with them, and I was mainly thinking of my keys. But anyway, I didn't take that, and I packed my stuff, and we went to Texas. And I got to Texas. We had a lot of fun. We went out to eat at what's it called? I just lost it. Has nights at whatever it's called. This really cool place that you go and you watch a show. You watch like jousting and stuff, and you eat everything with your hands, and it's awesome. It tastes great, and it's a great experience. Like my favorite restaurant of all time. But we went there for my cousin's friend's birthday. Me and her, like the three of us, I think, or maybe the four of us. I think the three of us went, because her younger sister was still in high school. And we had fun there. Then it came time for the morning. When that came, my aunt and uncle and my cousin was gonna go too. My aunt and uncle to take me to the airport so I could fly home. So I got everything ready and stuff, and then suddenly it hits me, and I'm like, oh, I think I need my ID to fly home. I think I'm gonna need my ID at the airport. So I go to the stairway, at the top of the stairs, and I can see my aunt and my uncle kind of walking back and forth, getting things around, getting ready to for the day and getting ready to get ready to take me to the airport. And so I go to the top of the stairs and I see them and I'm like, Frida, which is my aunt's name, and her and my uncle both look up at me and I'm like, so am I gonna need my ID for the airport? And my uncle's like, well, yeah, you have it, don't you? And I'm like, no. And yeah, so he's like, you gotta be kidding me. And I'm like, no, I don't have it. It was with my keys. I didn't think I needed my keys, so I didn't bring any of that. So they called the airport. I don't know if they called my mom first or after they called the airport, but they called the airport, and the lady or whoever they talked to on the phone told them that they should have my mom either fax it over or email it to them, and they can either fax my birth certificate and my ID over to them or scan it and like email it to them. And so they're like, okay. So they talked to my mom, she scanned it and emailed it to them. They printed out the paper that had my birth certificate on it and my ID on it, just on the paper, just like scanned on a paper, not the actual things obviously, but just scanned on the paper. So I was hoping that would work, and that's what the airport told us to do, so I figured it should work, but it still made me a little nervous. I saw a couple things on the way to, through the line, saying that it had to be the physical ID and stuff, and that made me even more nervous. I got up to the point and I showed that to them, and they pulled me to the side and called somebody else over, and I was like, oh well, the people in my aunt and uncle, my aunt's like over behind this little fence thing, the fence goes up to maybe like right here when I'm standing up, so she's standing behind that as I'm like on the inside, she's on the outside of this little like fence inside type thing that leads you through the line. And she wanted to make sure I got through. So she's standing there and they pulled me to the side, and I told him, I was like, well, the people at the airport, or like my aunt and uncle called the airport this morning, this is what we were told to do because my mom's in Ohio and I need to get back there, but I don't have my ID. There's not much I could do about that. And we had decided before even going, I think, to the airport, that if worst case scenario, my aunt would drive me back to Ohio, which I would feel so bad for. But anyway, that was an option. My aunt didn't really, the kind of job that she had and has is something where that would be okay for her to do. She didn't have a job that she had to be at. So, like a place she had to be. So, they told me that it's technically illegal to do that, which I don't know why the people at the airport would tell us to do that if it was illegal, but whatevs. Anyway, so we were trying to figure that out. They called Washington, or at least they told me. At this point, I'm not sure if they actually did, but according to what they told me, they called Washington, D.C. I don't know where at Washington, D.C., but somewhere in Washington, D.C., not the White House, I'm sure, but whatever place, and were asking me questions, asked my mom's birthday. I was like, I think it's May, I think maybe the 12th, and my aunt's like nodding, and they asked my address, which made me nervous and probably made me look stupid, but I was like, well, I didn't know how to answer because, I mean, most of the year I was at college. And so, and my address there was different, obviously, in a different town and stuff, because I went to Bluffton University. It was a different town, and of course a different address, completely different address than my home address, like my parents' address at the time. And I didn't know which one they wanted, and so I think I started to tell them my home address, and I was like, well, this is my parents, blah, blah, blah. And my aunt was trying to, like, kind of say things too, and they're like, ma'am, she needs to answer for herself. And I'm, of course, in tears, and because I don't do well when I'm in trouble for any reason, or being scolded, or any kind of talking to for any reason. I was crying. I didn't know how to answer something. Well, I didn't know my mom's birthday for sure. I didn't know which address they wanted, because well, I'm quiet. I didn't have the gumption to explain, or I wasn't in the right mind to be able to explain the situation of the address. But I kind of guessed on maybe my parents' address is what they wanted, but I didn't want like to say my parents' address and have them like look it up and have it be my like school address that showed up. It was like a different address than what I told them, and it was terrible. Not a good experience at all. But eventually, the questions they asked me, they must have all gone through, and so I was good. But then he gave me kind of a lecture, like he was my dad or something, about being responsible and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, obviously, I know I need to be responsible, but anyway, at that point, I was just when he started on like being like all dad lecture-y to me, that was just I was still, I think, crying, but I was just annoyed at that whole fact. It's like, okay, you're not my dad. You don't need to be giving me some dad lecture. I'm a college student. I made a mistake. I didn't think far enough ahead to think that I would need my ID for the ride home. I just thought of like on the way there and while I was there, and yeah. So I ended up after the lecture. They let me through. I was able to get on the plane and fly home. Didn't have any problems after that. I think I had I don't know if I had another, that might have been a straight flight. I don't think I had an in between, like 2 flights home. And so I got home, and of course by the time I got home, everybody in our family knew, because that's how it is in our family. Everybody knew. My mom was telling me what different people said about it, and I got home. It was all good. But me and my college roommate at the time would joke about the fact that I was a criminal because I got stopped at the airport with security, and that was my nickname for her. And she called me, and I called her the jerk roommate for other reasons, completely joking stuff. But yeah, of course. I haven't since, and I don't think I ever will forget my ID again. But, yeah, would never want to go through that again. Not fun. But I can laugh about it now, but it was not fun. Okay, so that's my story for this week about how I was stopped at an airport by security. I'll see you next week with next Tuesday's story time.